Hello, let us look at compound interest, and this interest is calculated on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from the previous periods. This means when you are calculating the interest of this period, you have to calculate it on the initial principal deposited plus the accumulated interest that you've earned in the previous periods. Okay, so the main thing for compound is you have to consider also the accumulated interest from the previous periods. For the simple interest, you just look at the interest is only on the principal, so it is the same every single year. But for the compound interest, you include the accumulated interest from previous periods. Okay, so let us look at the formula for calculating the accumulated the future value of an investment, which is usually including the interest. Okay, so we have the principal, which is basically that original deposit. Okay, and then we have R, which is the annual interest rate. For example, if it is 10%, that are 0.1. Okay, because 10 out of 100, you have a 0.1. Okay, and then N is the number of time this interest is compounded per year. Okay, and then T is the number of years the money is invested. Okay, so let us look at an example to understand this better. So we have an investor deposit Kenyan shillings 10,000. So this is the initial deposit, which is the principal, in a fixed deposit account at a bank at an annual interest rate of 8%, compounded yearly for 2 years. Okay, so let us look at let us calculate now the future investment of this. How much will this investor get at the end of these 2 years? Okay, so we have 1 plus RN and then NT. Okay, our principal is basically 10,000, which is the original deposit. 1 plus our rate is 8%, annual interest rate of 10%. So that is 0.08 because it's just 8 out of 100. So this is basically 0.08 divided by N. N is the number of times it is compounded in an year, but it is written compounded yearly, so it is per year. So that is 1. Okay, then raised to N, which is 1 times T is for 2 years, so 1 times 2. Okay, so this is basically 10,000. 0.08 divided by 1 is 0.08 plus 1 is 1.08, then raised to power 2. Okay, so this is going to be 10,000 multiplied by 1.08 raised to power 2. This is basically 1.1664. So when we multiply times 10,000, we are going to get 11,664. So basically this means that during this period, we are going 10,000 was the deposit that this person invested, and 1,664 is the interest that they have earned during the period of those 2 years. Okay, now let us look at another example where we are told Jen invests Kenyan shillings 40,000 in a mutual fund. So this is basically the principal, and it earns 30%, an interest of 30% per annum, compounded semi-annually. So the compounding is done after every half an year. Okay, semi-annually, so for 3 years. So we are asked to determine the value of the investment after these 3 years. So we come and say A is equals to the principal 1 plus R plus the number of times multiplied by NT. As you can see, our principal is 40,000. Okay, so 1 plus, we have our rate per annum as 10%, so that is a 0.1 over, and we are told compounded semi-annually. So that means those are 2 times in a year. Okay, then we multiply 2, and our number of years is 3 years, so 2 times 3. Okay, so here we are going to have 40,000 0.1 divided by 2 is a 0.05. Then 0.05 plus 1 is going to be 1.05. And then we are raising this to power 6 because 3 times 2 is 6. So we are going to have 40,000 multiplied by 1.05 raised to power 6 is basically 1.3401. Okay, so when you multiply 40,000 by 1.3401, we are going to get 53,604. Okay, so what this means is basically the interest earned is 53,604 minus the principal. That will be our the interest earned, but this is accumulated, the accumulated interest plus principal after 3 years. So if you invested 40,000 at the end of these 3 years, you're going to have 53,604.